And we are live. Hi, what a great evening. Hopefully, we've got planned for you. Fingers crossed. It looks like Brian has actually been held up, and I'm waiting for him to get in touch with me and kind of let me know what's going on. So I apologise in advance. He should be here. He's just seen the message, so hopefully he should be joining us any minute. We have got some absolutely fantastic stuff coming up for you in tonight's show, providing you manages to get through okay. So basically what we're looking at is Brian has set up this fantastic system. It's called New City Mastery, and he's going to be sharing some of the methods and techniques of being able to break into the social circles of the elite and the rich and the people. Here he is. Perfect. How you doing? We're already live, and we've got a couple of people watching already. I was just giving the introduction to say a little bit about what's going on. So glad you could make it. You had me sweating.
Yeah, sorry for the delay. It's just like back-to-back calls, and sometimes it's hard to get people off the phone, man. But I apologize. No. I'm here, man.
That's all right. I'm just glad you made it, because I wasn't able to do this all on my own, because this is all about you tonight. So So first off, Brian, welcome. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.
Yes. So I mean, what it is, I've seen what you do, and I just think it's just like the whole setup is fantastic. It's going from scratch from somebody. Oh, we lost you. There you are. You're back. Yep, I thought that was it. It's over early. The whole concept of going from scratch to be able to kind of mix with the elites and get into places that most people couldn't even dream of. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm not going to kind of steal the thunder. So if you're new here, please like and subscribe, as they say on every YouTube channel. And I'm going to hand it over to Brian to tell you a little bit about his backstory, about what influenced him into sharing, what he's doing, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So I've got a coaching program for guys that just moved to a new city. So the whole premise of it is built on the back of my backstory, which is basically, long story short, I come from Fort Collins, Colorado. So it's a college town where I was very used to being involved in friend groups, social groups. I was a soccer player myself, so I always kind of had friends and connections and stuff. So I think that built up a certain level of social skills and charisma and self-confidence that I'd always taken with me. But what happened is, later on in my life, as I got older and I wanted to develop my career, I had the opportunity to move to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I live now. And the opportunity was as a mortgage loan officer. So in the very beginning, I was extremely excited. I was like, I'm going to move to this new city where I'm going to make a ton of friends. I'm going to make a ton of money and meet a ton of people. But, the reality is that moving to a new city and starting with zero friends and connections is actually much more difficult than I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. But because of my background, I just knew that there was a way for me to kind of crack the code to fast tracking myself to making the type of friends that I actually liked and dating the type of women that I was actually interested in. But at the time, I was just feeling very, very left out, very lonely, very depressed. So I kind of made it my mission to go on this whole journey of self-improvement. Started taking classes. I started reading books and diving into neuroscience and evolutionary psychology, reading books about things like social dynamics and human nature. So I really just became obsessed with the whole world of this self-improvement. And a lot of that was very dating related in the beginning. So a lot of verbal game strategies to be more attractive and to be more seductive, and very, very, I call it kind of typical. Like it just seems so very stereotypical to me at this point, because a lot of those strategies are just so old, and are just been played out for decades at this point now. And long story short, I really did just kind of end up cracking the code to finding a systematic approach and a setup. I call it the social setup. It's basically a social situation. It's a social dynamic that you can create that brings high quality individuals to you. and provides value for everybody at the same time. So I went from not knowing anybody at all to, like you said, making friends with successful business people, like-minded individuals, and beautiful women, where I was being invited on vacations and dinners and yacht parties every single weekend when I was just a normal average guy. So that's kind of the I guess the backstory and the description, without giving you any of the juicy details yet.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that in a little while. Not too much, because we do want you to go over to you're using your Instagram mainly at the moment as form of contact. Is that right?
Yeah. So for right now, I'm not really driving traffic to my website. I just want to make sure that the New City Mastery Instagram channel and YouTube channel just gets the growth that I'm really looking for. So for right now, like, all of my efforts have been directed just towards those social channels.
Yeah, so I mean, please check those out, because I mean, your Instagram, which I want to talk about in a minute, is just fantastic. And the value that comes from your YouTube channel, is that New City Mastery as well? Is it?
So my personal Instagram, I think, would be a little bit more interesting for people to look at if they kind of want to pick up on some of the skills and strategies to optimize your profile to build out a personal brand. Just as far as best practices go, my business page, the New City Mastery page, is kind of more just like an informational hub. So it's not
Got you.
It's not following the same characteristics as what I would recommend and implement and teach for my students, which is to turn your Instagram more into like a landing page of sorts, which is advertising this character, like a action figure, which is you and who you are, to build a personal brand, to give you more influence and more credibility and more status.
Now, I've got to ask, do you use kind of specific camera, or have you got like some fancy SLR digital camera, or is it just your iPhone, or what are you using to take these photos?
Yeah, every picture that's on my profile is all iPhone pictures. So it's yeah.
Yeah, so, and you're not spending hours on kind of like Photoshop or anything like that. It's just it's as it's taken, right?
Nope. So yeah, there's no DSLR, there's no Lightroom, Adobe programming and stuff like that. I mean, I do have presets that I use on the iPhone that I recommend for my guys to enhance their photos, just increasing things like saturation and exposure and stuff like that. But yeah, there's no fancy technology. It's just unnecessary. Like the message we want to communicate and the aesthetic that we want to go for, like, it can be attained through much like easier measures with like a much lower barrier to entry. And that's kind of my goal, is to like give everybody the guidance and the roadmap to do this, like, as an average person. So you don't have to be some kind of celebrity. You don't have to have the fancy equipment and aspire to be some crazy influencer. You can be a normal person that lives a, less than ordinary lifestyle, just by putting some simple effort into the basics, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, I've seen your Instagram, I've seen a lot of your photos, and just absolutely, just amazing. And I know you've got a method and a technique. I'm not going to go into giving it away. That's they can learn that from you. But I know you've got lots of methods to really make that look so much more attractive and so much more appealing. And I know you do give a few lessons out on your YouTube channel as well. So again, I want to direct everybody over there and tell them to check that out. So yeah, last time we spoke, there was a lot of like comparisons to what you do and what I do, what we've had to do in the past, and where I go down the kind of the sneaky spy methods of getting into parties. This is what I have had to do in the past. I've had to get into embassy parties and that kind of thing. That's all well and good, but that's not what you do, isn't it? Yours is very ethical and kind of you're there because you've actually been, because you are invited, you're meant to be there, which is very different to what I've had to do.
Yeah, it's the similar principles, but I think a little bit different intentions, right? So for me, like the biggest push that I make to the people that watch my content and the people that consume my content and take it and apply it into their own lives is that, this is about building a foundation of real relationships with people, with men and women that you actually do take pride in saying are your friends, that you can see yourself in the future building with and growing with long term. So there's nothing sleazy or inauthentic about any of this. However, there are some simple social skills and truisms to the way that the human behavior works that can be applied, that work in similar ways, right? Like you always were, talking about on our last call, right? It just so happens that there's a little bit of like an overlap between, if you wanted to get connected to somebody that has important information, and if you wanted to get connected to someone that could be a useful friend of yours, the method to going about that is actually very similar, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with humans, and human nature is human nature. And it has been for 100,000 years, ever since we, evolved from operating in tribes, right? So
yeah, and of course, I mean, this whole thing is beneficial not just for I mean, for the ladies out there who just want to get up onto a yacht and drink champagne. That's all well and good. I know my wife would probably love that kind of thing. But for the guys in the world that again, it goes beyond just being on a yacht with ladies in bikinis. It goes to the extent of you are now mixing with quality people who can help get you somewhere, and you're building that bond and relationship with these people. Not purely for gain and selfish reasons. You're bringing something to the party for them, and at the same time, kind of, you stand to be in a better position of having a better network, better contacts in everything you do. So your own social status is not only elevated, but your chances of success are obviously a lot higher, aren't they?
yeah, absolutely. So what I call it is the triple win framework, and that's for a good reason. It's because the way that all of this works is by presenting people with opportunity and value. So there's value is an arbitrary thing. Like, what people value doesn't just translate monetarily. It's not just money. So this is how a guy like me, who's younger, can be friends with somebody that has millions of dollars, because the value exchange here isn't a monetary thing.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And so you say you're in Charlottesville at the moment?
Say that again.
Did you say you were in Charlottesville at the moment?
Charlotte, yeah,
Charlotte,
Charlotte, North Carolina. Yep.
North Carolina. Yeah, I haven't. I think last time I was there was about 2019. So hi Michelle. There's a few people joined us. So John's asked if I can put this on display. John has asked, what are the differences between how you approach a person based if they are old versus new money? Is there a difference, or is this something that you would go in with the same kind of approach no matter what?
Yeah, there's no difference, man. It's the same fundamentals, right? So I've got friends that are, you just recently founded new companies, and then friends that come from generational wealth, right? But again, at the end of the day, if you want to make friends with that person, it comes down to one simple framework, which is going to be consistently bringing value to them. And so you kind of have to have an understanding of what value means to people. But there's one common thing that's valuable to anybody, no matter their age, no matter their economic stature, right? It's relationships.
Yeah.
So that's everybody in the world values relationships. Like, you can have everything else, but nobody will ever say no to meeting somebody new, so long as they bring them positive emotion, so long as fun to be around. And at the end of the day, like, for someone that has it all, that's all that you can give them anyways, is a good experience. And so maybe there's like a little bit of nuance when it comes to like, how you would maybe speak to them, right? Like, kind of from a conversational perspective, like what you would talk about in conversation with them. Someone that's new money versus old money, because their primary driver emotion might be different. Like, so somebody that's just founded a company might be much more inclined to speak about, things that are oriented towards, future pacing, growth and stuff like that. Whereas someone that's old money, they've already got it all. They may not want to talk about that because they have what they need and they just want to enjoy it the moment.
Yeah.
So like there's conversational nuance no matter who you talk to. Like no two people are the same at all. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to be dynamic. But the strategy, the structure
Mm-hmm.
to continually and predictably apply
Mm-hmm.
is the same in terms of like bringing them into your world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah. I actually, it made me think when you were talking there, some of my mentors said to me years ago, he said, people don't like you. They like how they feel around you.
Right.
And that's what you've got to create, is that emotional attachment, that engagement, and that kind of, it's not about what you do to get somebody to like you. It's about the feeling that they get when they're with you and how you make them feel. So when you were talking about like kind of new money and old money, sometimes you can have that dynamic shift of, if you've got some old money who's sitting around the table with the usual old money friends and they're all talking and nattering about the same old things, the stocks and shares, now all of a sudden he's in a different part of the world and you're sitting to him next to him, talking to him, you're bringing something that he doesn't normally hear. Because he's normally sitting with Monty Burns talking about stocks and shares. You're now turning around and saying, hey, I've had this experience. And that they're going, wow, I've never had to do that. I've never had to worry about that. And they're imagining what it must be like. So sometimes you don't have to try and talk their language, as it were, to try and kind of have that relationship. You can be complete opposites and bring an ultimate experience to the table for them, because they've probably never imagined what it's like to scrape the rent money together, or to kind of struggle to get by. So yeah, it did make me think of that. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, like one key social skill to have is the ability to, I think, Gavin, you call it like profiling somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of called it finding their blueprint.
Yeah.
But everybody's blueprint is different, so that's why their motives and things, or their interests they're gonna be different from person to person. So that's just something that you have to be able to calibrate on the spot when you're having a conversation with somebody for the first time. So that's just a function of being curious, right? Like just asking questions that you're genuinely are curious about. So you just need to train yourself to, when somebody gives you a piece of information about them, like become genuinely curious about the implications and become genuinely curious about, what about that interests you. And if there's nothing at all, then just dive deeper into maybe something that they just said. But, based on their responses, you can start to get an idea of a person's blueprint, right? Like what is their Northern Star? Like, what do they focus on? Are they a very like pleasure seeking personality, which is, you're going to want to talk more in the future, right? When you're future projecting, you're going to want to talk more about, the pleasurable plans that you can make with, maybe kind of more of like the hedonistic type of, outlook, where it's like, if somebody else's Northern Star is, finances or their money or their growth, then you're going to talk about, you'll future project the possibility of seeing each other again or meeting again and staying in touch, maybe to do something completely different. So it's just the calibration.
Yeah, oh, definitely, and of course, like you say, finding their motivators. I mean, it can be done pretty easy when you're profiling them, and sometimes the people you expect to be the ones who are like the pleasure seekers, they may even be the ones that turn out and just love moaning about the younger generation, or or whatever the case may be. There might be the other side of it, the kind of the sympathy seekers and that kind of thing. Not usually, but but you can usually tell within a few minutes of talking to them. You can get to grips with their personality type. So now I've got to say something for my audience here, because at the end of the day, mate, you're a good looking fella, young lad, and so no problem. We could almost be twins, and I wish. And the thing is, what I want to put over here is, this can work for anybody. You don't have to be like kind of 30 years old and six-pack abs and kind of model looks. This is something that anybody really can leverage your system, right?
Yeah, well, so there is one prerequisite. You do have to be human.
That is advantageous. Yeah. Although, to be fair, I've seen a few puppies that could probably get away with it. So, but yeah, no. So I don't want to people thinking, well, yeah, that's all right for Brian. Look at him, he's a young lad who's got the world at his fingertips and he can do whatever he wants. I'd be the same if I was his age too. So I do need to kind of clarify for everybody in the audience, and this also goes for females, who want to also break into it, because I mean, we're blokes, we're going to talk about it from a gentleman's point of view. But this could be adapted for females to be able to use as well, I reckon. And what would you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be magnitudes easier for females. Typically speaking, like it's not really females that have issues with like developing their social lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like the natural dynamic of society, which is where opportunities are much more frequently presented to women, but now there may be an entire subset that's not true. So what's holding them back, right? Maybe it's their confidence, and maybe it's the confidence in their attractiveness that you just previously alluded to. Well, okay, let's talk about that. So my personal conviction is that attractiveness is it's a decision to a certain degree, right? So I don't have to be 180 pounds at 15% body fat. I could very well be quite out of shape, but I make that choice to get to the gym 5 days per week. Some days I work out twice per day. Right. So, I mean, maybe you look at this and see it's all just been, given to me. Right. But that's not always been the case. So there's certain things that you can do, like, because let's not try to fool anybody here. Like, looks do matter to a certain
Oh yeah.
Right. But you have control over your look. So you can choose to get a more, defined facial features by cutting weight. You can, get your hair cut in a way that, complements the shape of your head. You can grow out, for men, facial hair that defines your facial features and your jawline. You can get in shape and go to the gym. You can get some natural sunlight multiple days per week so that you can have a more even complexion and skin tone. You can have a little bit of a tan. You can wear the right clothing that fits you correctly. So you can if you want to, you can put little insoles in your shoes that make you a little bit taller. There's all these little tiny things that you can do that most men don't, that prevents them from going to being a 6 to like an 8. Like anybody can improve their attractiveness. So it's not even about like being the most attractive person in the world. There's always going to be somebody more attractive.
Oh yeah.
But the question is like, are you doing everything that you can possibly do in your power to maximize your potential? So if you're not, then in that case, like you don't deserve to be insecure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like you don't deserve to be discoured, because let's be honest, like you're just lazy.
Yeah. So I do agree with that. Yeah. And again, I mean, I'll put this out there because at the end of the day, I know from experience, I've been out and I've been around and about in the world, and I've seen a lot of things over time. And you can see people out there. I mean, there's this one guy I know, he's a drummer for a band. I mean, the guy's a total dropout. He's kind of, he's like, he's the kind of person, if you had a daughter, that you would want him to stop existing. And of course, he gets women left, right, and center. He's ugly. He's got like kind of greasy hair. He's got long, dirty, filthy nails. The guy's a total mess. But he gets women all over the place, and the reason being, it's not so much because of his looks. It's just it's a mixture of like his confidence and his beliefs and his abilities and his attitude towards life, as it were. So I need to kind of explain to people that 50% of the looks, 50% of it might be looks, but the looks are all well and good, but if you don't have the right attitude and the right confidence levels, you can be the best looking guy in the world, but if you start walking up to a lady saying, excuse me, can I have your number? You're not going to get with that lady. She's not going to give you a number. So
100%.
Yeah. And yet you can be, somebody, like, I mean, right now you were talking about skin tone. I mean, under this light, it's not doing me any favors, but I'm looking like Casper's ass right now. I haven't seen the sun for that long. I'm in England, kind of. We don't get much sunshine in here at the minute, and I haven't been abroad for way too long. So yeah, I need to kind of, but it is, like I say, it is a mixture of personality and as well as kind of look. So getting that mixture right. So there's a few more just joining us now. So for everybody who's just joined us, you've missed all the good stuff. You'll have to go back and watch it from the beginning.
Yeah, they'll have to watch the recording. But yeah, just to kind of add on to what you just mentioned, Gavin, that attraction is a recipe, right? So you have to kind of think of it like the end product as a cake. So I mean, your look, your genetic predisposition, right, which is your facial symmetry and your hip to waist ratios and all that different stuff. Like we talked about previously, like do what you can to maximize that out on your own. So get in the gym, have a healthy diet, and just get that squared away. Now, is our looks everything? Absolutely not by a long shot. So there's an entire recipe that goes into what makes men and women attractive. It's different for each gender, for which one sees to the other, right? I actually have a graph here. I could probably even like read it off to you if you wanted me to tell you preferences based off of studies. Have you read the book called Data by chance?
Book of what? You broke up for a second. Then what was it called? Sorry.
Oh, it's called Dataclysm.
Dataclysm? No, I haven't. I'm gonna have to have a little look at that. That sounds interesting. Dataclysm. But yes, let's have a listen to this graph and let's see if we can learn something new, because I'm interested in this.
Yeah, sure. So here's the rankings. This is 1 through 13. Maybe we won't go through all of them. We'll just do the top 5 for each. So I've got preferred by males or preferred by females. Which one should we start with first?
Let's start with the preferred by females for the men in the audience, and then we'll switch over to the preferred by males. Okay,
great. So preferred by females, this is by rank. Now, I don't have the source for this, but it's consistent with everything that I know. So
right. Are we going to go backwards, starting from number 5, or which is the best way to do it, do you think?
We can do that. We can do it that way. So number 5 So this is number 5 is going to be adaptability. Interesting, right? So that means that you have a dynamic personality and that you're able to more than likely overcome, obstacles that are thrown at you at random. That's life, right? So number 4 is good health. I think that one's pretty straightforward, right? Like you want to make sure that, like, for a woman's perspective, like, if you're gonna mate with a guy, he has to have good health. So then exciting personality is number 3.
Oh, okay. Exciting. I'm writing these down.
Intelligence is ranked number 2.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Kindness and understanding is ranked as number 1.
Wow. How about that?
So the number 6 was effectiveness. Now this would be my guess would be that this would be more for there's different mating strategies, right? There's long term and short term. This would probably be more oriented towards like long term would be my guess.
Yeah, got you. Okay,
there's a lot to unpack with all that, but
yeah, definitely. I'm really interested in that, and what people, if they're kind of looking at that list there, what they'll notice is absolutely, other than kind of good health, there's not really anything that's like kind of related to physical appearance. It's all kind of personality based: adaptability, exciting, intelligence, kindness, understanding, that kind of thing. I mean, obviously good health is in there, but there's nobody who's listed specifics. Nobody's in that top 5 turned around and said, he must have a chisel chin, he must have abs or something like that. So that's really interesting. So Michelle's just asked if we can put the link, the book link in too, please. So what I'll do, I'll add that to the show notes later.
Yeah, it's called Dataclysm.
Dataclysm. Okay. Yes.
So it's it's like an aggregation of data that was put together by somebody who ran some, I guess like technology company that pulled in data from like Hinge, Tinder, Plenty of Fish, eHarmony, like all these different dating sites, the paid ones, the free ones, and all that stuff. And they were able to basically put all of these data points together and start to really, like, in a very scary way, like be ready to see some like harsh truths, right?
Yeah.
Behind like human desire, human nature, preferences, things like that. That's non-biased, right? Because this is
Yeah.
data that's being collected by people that are uh, giving authentic information. Because, well, first of all, they didn't, they don't know that they're being surveyed, which they're not. It's just aggregation of data.
Yeah.
But it would not be in their best. Like, think about it from that perspective. Like, if you set up a dating profile,
They're
like,
not going to lie about what they want, are
right,
they?
yeah, like why would you do that, right? Like that
Hmm.
would just be a complete and utter waste of your time. So it's
Exactly.
authentic data. Yeah.
So on that list there, that list of 13, are there any that were, because we read the top 5, are there any that are further down that shocked you, that you thought, wow, I thought that might have been, up at number 2 or number 3 or something like that? Is there anything there that might surprise the audience?
Not really. No,
No?
no, not in my opinion. I mean, I've been studying stuff like this for years now, so it doesn't really surprise me. But for preference for males, we can rock through that one real quick.
Yeah, let's go for it.
That's going to be so this is what men prefer in women. This
Okay.
is good health, exciting personality. This is starting from top 5. Good health, exciting personality, physical attractiveness, intelligence, and then kindness and understanding.
Oh, wow. So pretty much the same list, almost. But we've obviously got like kind of personal attractiveness in there, and it was adaptability that was gone from that list. So just a slight change in the order, but very, very similar. And again, I'd say that I pretty much agree with that. I remember going through a single phase of saying to myself, right, I'm getting to the point now where I need to find someone to settle with. And I remember trying to find somebody that, in my words, was tick all the boxes, and I could find somebody who was intelligent, but then there might be kind of there might be something else, that another box that wasn't ticked, or so it was really difficult to find somebody that did everything on the list, as it were. So
yeah. Gavin, do you want to read through some comments or something real quick? I gotta grab some water, man. I'm like parched.
yeah, sure, right. So go grab
second.
some water, yeah. And so what I'll do is I'll thank a few people for coming. Thank you, Sadie, for coming along. Thank you, John, for making, because John was here early. Obviously Michelle's here as well, so thank you, Michelle. Yes, men are more visual. So yeah, that's one of the main differences between men and women when it comes to dating. Is men are they will look first and primarily at what they find aesthetically pleasing. Now it's one of those things where if a man doesn't find a woman attractive, it can be a lot harder for a woman to kind of, if you want to use the word, force attractive attraction than what it can be the other way around. So whereas women, they tend to look for other qualities, and you can have a guy that a woman doesn't necessarily find physically attractive, but then can be afterwards looking at other qualities that can make up for the the kind of the lack in that department, if you want to call it that, and can come to find them attractive. That I've made a right gash of explaining that, but it made sense in my head when I was thinking it.
Yeah, dude. I love talking about this stuff. Have you read the book Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters?
No, I haven't. No. Wow, you're reeling some good ones off tonight, so I want to write that down as well. Why? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the book Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters is a evolutionary psychology book. Have you heard of Dr. David Buss? He wrote the book called Evolution of Desire.
I've heard of the book. I didn't know the name. I don't know whether I've read it or not, though. So, can you give us a little bit of a synopsis of this? Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters? Then, is there a key takeaway in it?
Yeah, I mean, well, Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters. It's just basically, I mean, there's like some really crazy science behind, like the way that humans, like genetically speaking, have evolved. And they find that statistically speaking, the people that this is going to be really hard for me to explain. Let me try to like get this in my mind. So the people that were more beautiful traditionally were typically more well off. So because they were more well off, they had financial resources. So because they had resources, it's less of a adaptive, basically, like, solution to have a son, because like sons were the ones that would kind of like go out and conquer and attain, money and the, status, and think of like the Genghis Khan or whatever, right?
Got you. Yeah.
So like having a daughter was more, I guess, beneficial from a reproductive standpoint. And this like gets into the science of like whether or not, like, we can't choose, but was there an answer to it? And it just had something to do with that. Like basically there was a reproductive mechanism to, almost kind of based on socioeconomic standpoints. But anyways, it's just a really good book. I mean, it'll really open your eyes about human nature, evolutionary psychology, like the whole science behind attraction. But I don't think we want to make this whole live call about just that. We want to talk about like espionage, right?
Yeah, a little bit of espionage as well. Let's throw some in there for good measure. So yeah, in fact, funnily enough, going back to what we were saying earlier about when you were talking about having conversations with people, there's a technique that I know that a few of the regulars are aware of, called elicitation, and basically it's a way of obtaining information, kind of without bombarding somebody with questions. You're not going into interrogation mode. So what you can turn around, rather than me turning around and saying to you like, Brian, can you tell me about this and can you tell me about that? I can go down the route of making a provocative statement, and this will kind of get you to kind of engage without me asking a question. So I can turn around and say something, hey, I bet you since you've started this entire adventure up that you've had some phenomenal stories out of it.
Right. So that's like it's not really necessarily like a cold read. It's kind of more of like a directive.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You're making me answer your question without asking it.
Exactly, yeah. So I mean, just to give you an example, you can use this on Uber drivers. If you get into the Uber and you turn around and say, I bet you've had some crazies in the back of here. Then they're about to start telling you some stories. If you get in the back of the Uber and you turn around and say, have you had any crazies recently? They'll just go, yeah. And that's it, and it's conversation over. But if you say, if you go the other way, wow, I bet you've got some story about some crazy passenger rides, huh? And all of a sudden you'll find they'll be like, oh yeah, there was this one guy and blah blah blah. It helps to open them up, which is it's conversational mastery. It's brilliant. So elicitation is something we use in the spy world, and what it does, it brings, so you can start a conversation with like a 50-50 dynamic. You say a bit, I say a bit, and then bit by bit, as you're using the elicitation more, you're changing the percentage of the conversation. So you're saying less, they're saying more. You're saying about like kind of 10 to 20%, they're saying kind of 80 to 90%. You're getting more information out of them, and they feel good because, let's face it, people love to talk and have that conversation and love to feel like they're being heard.
Yeah, that's a cool strategy. There's like something else that I learned along the way that kind of goes along the lines of that, but like, honestly, that's actually kind of like kind of a novel concept for me. So like, let's think of a couple of examples here. Like, I guess I could give an example in the context of my program, right? So one of the key challenges that my guys face is finding what I call their local hotspot. So this local hotspot, it's kind of this like elusive, trendy place where all of the high value and high value women are going to. They're already congregating there, but you're not in the know, right? You're not invited, right? Because let's be honest, like when something's really good, you probably don't want a lot of people to know about it because that's how it becomes really bad.
Exactly.
So it's like, how do we find that information? How do we go about getting somebody to, confess where that, secret location would be? Well, a good way you could do that, I guess, like with you, what you just said, right, is you're having a conversation with an attractive individual. It seems like they might be the type of person that you'd be interested in dating or getting to know. You could say, you seem like the type of person that would know about some really cool places to go on Saturday night.
Yeah. And if you want to go down,
is that correct application? Like, is
yeah. That's brilliant. That's absolutely perfect. Because what you're doing is you're complimenting them. You're making them feel good about themselves in the sense of like, you know, that and they're going to want to go out their way to prove you. They're not going to sit there and go, oh no, I'm a miserable person, really. And you know, they are going to say, yeah, I do. You know, and if you want to take that, if you want to ramp that up even further, you can even go down the route of turning around and saying, this can't be it. Surely there's got to be somewhere better than this place. And again, yeah, they're going, oh yeah, let me tell you about this one joint we went to, and you know, so again, you can use the same kind of techniques there as what you're using, the elicitation techniques to kind of get people to do the work for you.
I love that.
Yeah, so I you know, and this is, you know, it's amazing how the two worlds that you're in and I'm in are so close and parallel in so many ways with what we do, and kind of, you know, and yet kind of completely different at the same time.
Yeah, that's really interesting because like I can see why that works. And what I talk about a lot is the value exchange. So you know, one thing that I say that kind of pisses a lot of people off is that I have this core belief, which is a little bit deterministic, but depends on how you look at it. You know, I've said that everything in life is a value exchange. And I think that you can break that down all the way to a microscopic level, right? Where even like a microorganism, in order for it to survive, it has to move around through the world and it has to consume something else. But then as a byproduct, you know, something else either consumes it or it creates something else for something else to consume. So think about like the micro, whatever it's called, right? That's in your like stomach, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
the microbiomes, and yeah,
like, is that using you or are you using it? Right?
both.
Because you need, right? So there's a value exchange there. Like your digestive system can't exist without essentially bacteria, you know, but like, you know, this bacteria is, you know, using you, right? Okay, so let's kind of like take a bigger, you know, scope out. So, you know, this is just like fundamentals of like the laws of human nature, right? Is like if you want to be friends with someone or elicit information, you know, there has to be like you don't make friends with somebody by bringing nothing to the table. Like that's how I explain friendship, right? Is like, you know, it might sound superficial to you, but you know, it's a value exchange there. Like any relationship, there's some sort of trade-off where equal parties are being reciprocated, and then if not, then the tie breaks. So like even in that conversation, you tell them, you know, you seem like the type of person that would this or that. I think that they'll give you value back because you've led that conversation with value, because it's essentially a compliment, right? So it's going to give them you know, a validation, which elicits a positive emotion. So, and that's really all this really is I teach people how to have conversations to just elicit positive emotions in people, because by nature, this law of reciprocity, like if you're just eliciting positive emotion, then they're just gonna like you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you've got,
they don't know why.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you've got that constant drip of dopamine that you're providing, and this goes back to full circle about what I was saying to you about what my mentor said, people don't like you, people like how they feel when they're around you. And if you're doing that, if you're the one creating that constant drip of dopamine by giving them the kind of the feel good factor that around you, then you know, then they're going to associate that with you, and you know, and that's the value that they get from it. So,
man, I love that. What's what about, okay, so we talked about elicitation. What else can we talk about? You seem to have maybe some ideas that we can go off of. What else do you have?
Well, I do love this kind of thing that I know you were talking about, your kind of social media presence, which a lot of people they do the same thing. There's some really bad advice out there on how to kind of, you know, build your Instagram and build your Facebook status and everything else. And I got to admit, I'm a nightmare for some. For me, my Facebook profile is like a backup to all my photos of like me and my family, me and my daughter, that kind of thing. So I've got them digitally backed up as well, you know, and it's a good networking tool. So there are things on there that for most people like, oh, you know, but for somebody in your position, you've scrapped the boring. You know, you haven't got pictures of your egg on toast. You haven't got pictures of your morning coffee. All of that's gone. And what's happening is people are kind of, you know, if they were to look through your Instagram, they'll be like, "Wow, this dude is somebody." You know, can you give us a little bit about that without giving? I mean, I don't want to take everything from your kind of personal coaching, but you know, can you share a little bit with that?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, do you want to pull up my profile or do you want to share the screen and look at it? Can we do that?
I'm actually a bit of a technophobe when it comes to that kind of thing. So, do you know how to do it from your end, or can it only be done from my end?
I can probably do it from my end. Here, hold on a second.
Okay,
Let's see what we got. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, a visual speaks 1,000 words, right? That's what somebody said once upon a time. Let me see here. Share screen. Make sure I close all of my crazy tabs. Okay, let's see here. Can you see my screen? Oh, wait. Yep, can you see my screen?
Oh yeah, it's just come on. Let me add that to there. There we go. Brilliant. Wow, this is a first for me. So hi Erin, thanks for joining us. So yeah, look at that.
Yeah, so let's just kind of break down why this is, you know, first of all, why does it matter? Well, you know, welcome to 2024, right? We've got virtual reality, we've got the metaverse, we've got technology. It's here and it's here to stay. I come from an interesting generation where I was born in the 90s and I was here without it and I'm here with it. So I'm a probably good proponent of, like, you know, able to adapt. You know, some of the Last of Us from, you know, pre 2000s. So it's here to stay. It's only going to continue to become more and more used, which means it's more important. It's more integrated into just human nature at this point. So, like, why does this profile stand out from the others? Well, like you said before, I always recommend to people to kind of eliminate the what I consider like scrapbook pictures. So the reason that the egg on toast, like, really just is a not great to have on your profile is because you have to think about it from your viewer's perspective, right? Like, let's go back to the value exchange. What value do they get by looking at that? You know, unless it's your mom or your dad, like, they might be supportive of what you're having for breakfast, but to a random stranger, like, you got to ask yourself, like, why should they care? So when I get my pictures taken, you know, if you look at this here, you know, I had this picture taken with my viewer in mind. So my, you know, my core, I guess, you know, piece of advice for you guys is to take and post photos that, even if I was cropped out of it, like if I removed myself from the photo, it would still in and of itself give some kind of value. Right. Because,
Yeah,
you know,
got you.
this is, you know, this is the actually, it's not in Ouray. That's not correct. But this is the Black Canyon.
Wow.
This is in Colorado, and it's just gorgeous. You know, I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's just it's amazing to look at. When you see it, it's just like, it gives you freaking vertigo. So you know, like, you want to just think of yourself as like a prop in a big, right? Like, you want to kind of tell a story. So same thing here, right? This is you know, this is Antarctica. So
Wow.
if I would have just posted a picture of my you know, my face, like, I think most people would maybe post a selfie in, you know, on their Antarctica trip or whatever, which, you know,
Guilty.
I did a couple of them, right? But it's not going to be my first photo.
Yeah, got you.
So this, like, really captures, like, the essence of what you're doing. Again, like, you could take me out of the equation and you'd still be able to, like, really, like, you would like the picture, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
any random person or any random stranger can come across this and be like, wow, like, that's a cool shot. I don't know who this freaking guy with holding this freaking flag with his orange hat is, but like, you know, aside from that, you know, it brings value. So I don't know, anything else you want to point out? Like, I guess,
Yeah,
like,
no,
you
I
know,
mean,
the consistency too is like, it builds a personal brand. So this is really important when it comes to, you know, if you just want to if you want to kind of communicate relevancy, like, you want to come across as somebody that gets it and is, like, relevant, right? So so I focused on personal branding and photography quite a bit. And what I basically boiled it down to is, look, like, not all going to be in Antarctica. Like, let's be honest, like, these are really hard to get. Luckily I knew what I was doing while I was there. But I mean, even just something as simple as just being at the fountain in your city, you can kind of take a step backwards and make sure that you're not getting any tourists in the background. You want to make it your entire outfit so that it's not like just half of your body, so then it doesn't look like a senior portrait or a LinkedIn picture. It needs to kind of tell a little bit of a story. But the results come when your profile is uniform. So it's all just photos of you, because now it's kind of almost like, here's a sales page for Brian the action figure. Brian is here's black hiking Brian, and here's Arctic adventure Brian, and it's kind of almost like different editions of the same guy, right?
I love it.
That's personal branding.
I love the lesson there of kind of, because if you look at a lot of them, they're like kind of, they'd be epic pictures whether you were in them or not. So I love that kind of takeaway from that. And I think, like you say, there's been a lot of kind of advice, if you want to call it that, from the so-called gurus online who are saying, get photos of your parties, get photos of you in crowds, and you've turned around and said, no, get rid of all of that, make yourself a brand,
Yeah, kind of like a product, I mean, you're you want it to be sick. No. Yeah, so typically you have to either set up a tripod, or just ask a friend, somebody that you're there with. I think a good idea, if you want to build your IG profile, is find somebody that is, on the same page, would want to do the same thing, and you go together and you help each other to get some pictures. I would just recommend you do some research. You can search on Instagram in your area, just search your city in the search bar, and it's going to bring up all of these pictures that other people have taken, and you can find a really good one and just go recreate it.
That's it. Yeah, just look for the one that kind of stands out. Like you say, if you type in your city name into Google, click on images, look for yourself and look at the ones that you go, wow, that's a really good picture. And then go and recreate it. What a brilliant idea.
I would say you wouldn't want to search that in Google. You'd want to search it in Instagram itself, because it's going to give you the geotag too. So you can see specific to the location, right?
Yeah. That's brilliant. I like that. So Erin's just turned around and said, then again, I'm an old lady. No, you're only as young as the man you feel, Erin. So I mean, that was great advice with that. And again, on your Instagram page, again, there isn't like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures for people to scroll through. There's enough for them to see and get the idea. And that's
well. I mean, and let's relate it back to what people that might be watching this would care about, right? I don't know. I guess, like, the theme of your channel, like what I'm trying to like figure out where this relates, because it does fit in. From my perspective, like, when it comes to making friends, like, just think about it. If you're meeting somebody for the first time, there's just a big difference between, like, you don't have a second chance to make a first impression, right? So
exactly.
So I'm just giving myself, back to the personal fitness thing, like, I'm just going to give myself the best odds on every single front that I possibly can. And, that's all I'm doing on Instagram. It's not that I'm Instagram obsessed, or that, like, Instagram isn't real life, right? No, it's not. But it's one aspect to the entire pie, which is me. And I want each piece to be maximized. So, like, if you put my profile, next to somebody else's profile, the same guy, different profiles, meet the same person, have a conversation, get connected on Instagram, like, one is just going to leave a better impression than the other. So this is like, a way to get in with people just by playing into, it's just human nature. I'm sorry, there's no way around it.
And of course, if you look at the two aforementioned lists that we went through, there was one quality that was on both lists, which is an exciting personality. People have said, on both from male and female perspective, they want somebody with an exciting personality. So if you go onto somebody's Instagram profile,
that's a great
and
point.
this is me in the living room on a Monday. This is me having my dinner in the living room on a Tuesday. This is me having my breakfast in the living room on a Wednesday. They're going to be like, oh, really? Whereas if you go, look, this is me in Antarctic. This is me jumping out of a plane. This is me at the top of a mountain. This is me, then all of a sudden what you've done is you've appealed to that. That's one quality that you've crossed off the list, as it were, to say, box ticked. Right, I've done that. So you've got that. Again, adaptability is kind of covered with that as well. You're not somebody who just goes to the same pool every day, the same beach every week. You've gone skiing, you've gone parachute jumping, you've gone rally driving, you've done whatever you've done. So that's showing adaptability. Again, you've ticked the good health box, because you're not kind of stuck at home kind of getting fatter, and that in itself sort of shows that you've got like this intelligence, which was number 2 mainly for women. Intelligence is ticked because you're not somebody who is kind of satisfied with mediocre. You want to go out and you want to broaden your horizons. A well-traveled man is a well-educated man, and therefore you've got intelligence ticked as well. So the majority of the things that are on the list that we spoke about earlier have all been ticked off just by one Instagram page.
Yep. I love that, man. No, that's a really good point.
You can see why I was steering the conversation that way now, can't you?
Yeah, no, that was brilliant.
So, right, I understand we're coming to the top of the hour. I know you've got a hard out, and I know we didn't go too deep into spy stuff and everything tonight, but I really, really wanted to plug what Brian's doing, because I really think he brings a lot of value to people, especially if they're moving to a new city or a new place, or even if they're in the same city and just want to change some of their usual patterns and behaviors and get in with better social circles, better people, and the kind of cream of society, if you want to call them that. So thank you everybody for joining us. We've had a very small crowd tonight, unfortunately. I don't know what's happening. There must be something going on Fox News that I'm unaware of. So thank you to everybody that did come. For everybody else who's watching the replay, please go over and check out Brian's Instagram, New City Mastery, as well as the YouTube channel. Loads of value. And for the one-to-one coaching, I mean, obviously we've gone through the broad strokes of some of the things, but in this amount of time, we can't drill down and go into depth, on this. So please contact him for one-to-one coaching. It'd be well worth it, I promise you. And it can, obviously, I should imagine, be tailored to each person.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Brian, thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing some of your experiences.
Definitely, man. Let's do it again sometime.
Fantastic. Will do. All right.